Hello and welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. This tasting today of Italian sparkling wines is brought to you through our partnership with the Italian Trade Agency, the ITA, with their Italian wine marketing initiative at Wine.com. So today we're talking about Italian wines, specifically sparkling Italian wines. And there are several regions in Italy that have the ideal terroir for sparkling wine production. And over the past several decades, families and winemakers have been continually advancing the quality and standard of sparkling wine in Italy. And we are very lucky that we get to taste three of those wines today. So the three wines that we are tasting are the Nino Franco, Prosecco, Rustico, Prosecco Superiore, the Ca del Bosco, Franciacorta, Cuvée Prestige, and the Ferrari Rosé. So these are the three wines from these three regions, very close together. We're going to introduce our guests who are joining me today to speak about these wines. We have Silvia Franco, who's owner at Nino Franco. We have Maurizio Zanella, who's the founder at Ca del Bosco, and Camilla Lunelli, who is owner at Ferrari Trento. And their Italian is going to be so much better than mine. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here to talk about the wines and share your stories. We'll go ahead and get started with tasting the wines. And we're starting with the Nino Franco Rustico Prosecco Superiore. So Silvia, hello and welcome.
Hello, Gwendolyn.
So tell us a little bit about the story of your family. You are four generations on this property and have done so much to help it prosper. So give us a little background.
Yeah, so I represent the fourth generation of our family. It started in 1919 with my great-grandfather, Antonio Franco. And the second generation was Nino Franco, so my grandfather. And Primo is my father. He's still 100% on duty. We have been here in Valdobbiadene, so the name of the town beside the name of the appellation, since then, in the same area, in the same property. Obviously, during the years, the property has grown, and also our job has developed from the beginning when Antonio founded a kind of farm. Nino implemented the production of wine with Prosecco and white and red wines. But with my father Primo, they decided just to focus on the main product of the area. So on the Prosecco, which since 2009 has become a DOCG. So Valdobbiadene Conegliano Prosecco Superiore DOCG.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Prosecco because there's just a lot that's kind of happened with the DOCG in 2009 and just over the past couple of decades. So could you kind of give us a brief education on the region, the grape, and the quality levels of Prosecco?
Sure. So the area for Prosecco production is quite wide, but there are several, it's a kind of pyramid where there are different levels of areas and production. The Conegliano Valdobbiadene, I would say, is on the top of the pyramid. We are on the foot of the Prealps, about 1 hour in the north of Venice. The area covers a land that goes from the town of Valdobbiadene on the western side to the town of Conegliano, which is on the eastern side of the appellation. Within this area, we have a kind of subzone, which is the Cartizia Superiore, which is one of the, let's say, Grand Crus that we are allowed to produce, all the producers are allowed to produce. And then there are also some other crus within the DOCG, which are called Rive. And then there are single vineyards wines that are produced from each producer when they have a single vineyard that is able to produce a single wine. Independently from this kind of Rive group. And then we have another little DOCG Prosecco area, which is called the Asolo. It is a little bit less known. It is also a much smaller production, and it is, I would say, in the southern western part of the appellation, but it's outside of our appellation. So it's two different. It's Valdobbiadene Conegliano Prosecco Superiore, the OCG, and then there is another little one on the south from here, which is Asolo Prosecco Superiore. And then we have a very wide area, which is called the Prosecco DOC, which covers a big part, the major part of Veneto and the whole Friuli region. There are also differences in terms of laws between the two appellations. There is a big difference in the microclimate as well. So this gives obviously a different product. And what I always say is that I think that at the end, what the big difference is made usually from the producer, independently from the area, which helps from the base to have a quality product. But then at the end, the producer is the one that can turn grapes into a great wine or not.
Right. And so superior on the label, what does that always mean? What does that indicate to somebody buying Prosecco?
Well, that means that word is talking about it's a part of the regulation. So the word superiore is allowed to be used by producers that produce spumante, so sparkling version of the Prosecco, because we are also allowed to produce frizzante or still Prosecco. The majority of the production is spumante, so sparkling wines. Spumante just means a sparkling wine, okay? It's a sparkling wine with a minimum of 3.5 atmospheres of pressure in the wine. So the spumante Prosecco can be called superiore. The other ones cannot use this word. So this word is used for those wines that come from the DOCG and that are sparkling.
Okay, good. Little Prosecco education for everyone. Well, let's taste this wine. I'd love to kind of talk through the flavor profile, the aromas, and maybe how it kind of represents this spot of Valdobbiadene. Yes, did I say that right?
Yes, perfect.
Valdobbiadene.
So we're tasting Rustico, as you said at the beginning. Rustico is what we consider our premium entry level Prosecco. So it is at the base of our production, but it is already the Prosecco, the Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore, the OCG, on which we are from the base working a lot on the profile and on having a consistency year by year on the taste, on the pleasant that this wine can give. We have here, so Prosecco, the OCG must be produced by the law with 85% Glera grapes. So Glera is a white half aromatic grape. We choose to use 100% Glera. This is a grape that we think it gives its best with through the Charmat method, which means first and second fermentation in stainless steel tank. This helps the Prosecco to have and to show the primary flavors, so the fruit, the flowers, the aromas, the fresh and young aromas, and we sometimes, in order to have some structure and flavor, we at the beginning of the production of the base wine, during the first fermentation, we don't we make some contact on the lees, on the grow lees, in order to have that more structure and color. But still, we want to have in the Rustico, we want to have something fresh, young, easy to drink, affordable to any taste, any person that would like to taste this style of sparkling Italian wine. Cheers, first of all.
Cheers. Yeah.
I think that in Rustico, you can taste some green apple. You have some stone fruit. You have sometimes also, you can taste also some, now the word doesn't come in English, the gelsomino.
Okay.
So it's a very delicate and white and small flower.
White flowers, yes. Yeah.
Flower. Okay. So I would say very simple taste, remaining in the family of stone fruit. I would say Italian fruit. We don't go towards something tropical, so it's very. It remains in the level of primary flavors.
It's so beautiful. I've been drinking Franco Rustico for a long time, and it's one of my favorite sparkling wines. So it's beautiful. And I love the finish and the balance. It's all just very, very well done. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the story and the wine. Absolutely delicious. So our next wine, we're going to Franciacorta, the Ca del Basco, Franciacorta Cuvée Prestige. Maurizio, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you to Wine.com. Thank you, Gwendolyn.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit on the background of Ca del Basco and your story and your mission and what drew you here to this region to make sparkling wine.
Well, it's a strange story in the wine because I have no 20 generation before me, because I start this about more than 50 years ago, unfortunately, but I am still here. And it's a strange story because I was sent, let's say, in exile in a country house where my family have a farm, because I was a naughty boy at school and I like more to do the revolution in the 70s, even if I was young, instead have like second option, the study. So the study was not so successful. And so my parents, they was, sorry, say a bad word, pissed off. And they sent me out in the country to try to make something different, to study in a small village on the lake Iseo, and hoping that I have a different interest. And by luck, the interest was the wine, by several reasons. And so I start this like an adventure, like a dream. And thanks God, something happened, and with a lot of luck, due also for the extraordinary territory where they put me, because if I was in Emilia-Romagna, probably, without any doubt that Emilia-Romagna can do great wine, probably was not able, that the dream became reality. So the conjunction with the big passion and what I call the Italian wine renaissance, so the right timing was a timing where it was possible to change a past of a country that was looking the wine with different eyes, more on quantity than on quality. So this big change started exactly in the 70s, and I was lucky to have the terroir and the timing, because if probably I was starting this some year before in advance, probably I was not here today. And so the timing was very important.
The secret to life is timing. So well done.
I have no choice the timing. So I was very lucky to get the right timing.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about because I know you were a big part of this, of the classification, the DOCG classification for Franciacorta. When did that happen and come about?
Well, Franciacorta start, even if it's a young name, is one of the oldest in the DOC world, because was the number fifth DOC in Italy in 1967, and was possible to produce under the same name wine and sparkling wine. Then the big change is in 1995, where Franciacorta is used only for bottle fermented wine. So not generally sparkling wine, but mandatory should be only bottle fermented wine. And this in the 95 was the first DOCG give to a bubbling wine. And is incredible. And this in United States is even no one know, but when we get this, we have also was forbidden to use the word spumante. So technically, Franciacorta is a wine, is not a sparkling wine, because we want to give more appeal to the terroir than to the method. And so treat the wine like all the great wine in the world, not because they are sparkling, they are better, but because we want to give the right recognition to the terroir and not how the wine was done. So Franciacorta was established, the DOCG in 95, and you can use 4 varietal that are classical for this kind of wine. So you have the Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Bianco, and the local varietal that is Herba Mate, that you can use until 10%, because this is only 15 years ago that is coming in the DOCG after we taste this old varietal that is only of this region. And so we are still working on the clone in order to get the best that we can from this varietal that is pretty local. And is very interesting. So also the rules of the DOCG, when we start to do the rules, we the winners here, there was so believe in the project that they have done the rule that was actually, that was the strongest in the world in order to produce a bottle of a wine bottle fermented. So the lower yield for hectares, the longest time on the yeast, and the low, how you say, press percentage. So the quantity of juice that you get is very, very low. So there was all the area that was convinced in order to take a quality strategy. And this was incredible, and was not because we was best of other, but because we was free and we don't have any cooperative and any industry. So all the producer, there was grower, so it was easy to make a, how you say, to speak together and to have the same direction. But because sometimes when you have different people, they have different interests, and it is more difficult to plan and project a territory. So the territory have give a very good answer, and quickly we have even if there is an old history, because Franciacorta have wine from 890, because we have the Napoleon catasto, so the paper where you say in the land if you have pear, or if you have wood, or if you have vineyard. And already in the end of in 1890, there was 1,000 hectares in Franciacorta, but it was not done in order to do good wine. It was done just to make wine for consumption, personal consumption. So this is a little bit the history of Franciacorta, where I told you is mandatory to make this wine only in the bottle fermenting way.
Yeah. So we are tasting the Cuvée Prestige.
We are tasting the Cuvée Prestige that is edition 46. So is we give a number of each edition that we have produced from the beginning. So now we are testing 46 because we want to define, even if it's a multi-vintage, the fact that each edition is different and they have his own personality. So we cannot put the year because we blend different year, but we put the number of the edition. So the consumer know how many vintage and which vintage are inside this bottle.
And which
So
grapes are which grape varietals are used for this vintage or this edition?
they are use the three classical, the Chardonnay that is around 78%, the Pinot Bianco that is only 2%, and the Pinot Noir that is about 20%.
Okay.
And you have 76% of this wine is harvest 21. Then you have 21% that is vintage 20. And then you have a 4% that is vintage 19.
Okay.
So you have three vintages that are blend in order to get this kind of wine.
Okay, well, let's taste it and talk to us a little bit about this flavor profile and how it highlights the.
I don't like too much to speak about my son because I am not objective enough. But what we try to do with this wine is to get a wine that is easy, even if it's complex. So to try to have a lot of fruit, and this we have because we are 100% organic, but we have a kind of way to wash and clean the grapes in order, before pressing, in order to get all the fruit as possible, to give the taste of the fruit more than the wine, so more than the second fermentation yeast toasty. We prefer to have more the fruit and the frutta bianca, the white fruit. So peach and pear are the most that perhaps you can smell in this wine. Even if they are the hazelnut, you feel the toast, obviously, but the toast is behind the fruit. We prefer to have the freshness of the fruit, but the power of a wine that stay at least 2 years on the yeast minimum before go on the market. This is an extra brut, so it's only 1 gram of sugar at dosage, and in order to don't modify the taste of the wine natural. We don't need to add sugar to those wine because they are already ripe. So
Yes, the fruit
the
is so
is not so high, and you don't need to put a lot of dosage. In this wine is 1 gram, but sometimes we go lower in order to keep the wine as natural as born.
It's beautiful. It's so I love Franciacorta just because I think I find it so unique also. And I'm very glad that you did so poorly in school that you were sent off to the country to make this wine. Otherwise we wouldn't have it. So
Thank you very
beautiful.
much.
Thank you so much for sharing the story and creating such beautiful wine. Appreciate it.
Grazie.
Grazie. Okay, our last wine comes from the Trentino region of Italy. We're all been kind of near the Alps doing this. Camilla, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we're tasting the Ferrari Rosé, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Giulio Ferrari, and a little bit about his legend, I guess, and well, his vision for Trentino. Can you give us a little bit of that story?
With great pleasure, because Giulio Ferrari has really been a pioneer for all of Italian sparkling wine, and particularly for his native land of Trentino. He was actually a very modern personality in my eyes, because he was born at the end of the 19th century and still had a very European profile. He studied enology first in San Michele al Adige here in Trentino, where we have a school of enology which is still a center of excellence. But then he also studied in Germany and in France, in Montpellier. And it was during a period of time that we would call today an internship in the Champagne region that he had the great intuition that gave birth not only to our winery, but to all of the Trento DOC appellation, which includes, as of today, 67 wineries. So what was his idea? Champagne and Trentino are completely different, but the idea was that even if we are 1,000 kilometers southern than the Champagne, thanks to the mountains, so thanks to the altitude of our vineyards, we can have a strong diurnal shift in temperature between day and night, which is what allows the grapes, Chardonnay in particular, to gain great aromas, but also to have that strong acidity, which is important for having a long-lasting, lively, traditional sparkling wine. So that's how we started to bring the first vines of Chardonnay to Trentino, and also, by the way, to spread them all around Italy, because his family activity before producing wine was nursing vines. And then in 1902, he started to produce a few select bottles, and he was really almost obsessed by quality. So he never tried to produce more, but he really tried to have the top of quality in everything he was doing. And actually, the first award he got was just in 1906. So when his company would have been called, as of today, a startup, because he was doing something completely new, and he was actually very, very young. So I think it's absolutely correct to call him a pioneer.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege of going to this winery, and the terroir is beautiful. I mean, it's just the scenery with the mountains and the vineyards, and so so it's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes, those are the two grown there, and yeah, it's just absolutely stunning. We're tasting the rosé. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of the rosé?
With pleasure. Let me just quickly continue the
Yes.
story from Giulio Ferrari to our family, because for sure
Yes, tell us about the Lunelli family. Yes, sorry, how that different.
So he's the founder and said a great visionary man, but I think what Ferrari is today has also been a great deal part of what my family has been building over 3 generations. In fact, Giulio Ferrari had no children, and so at the beginning of the 50s, he started to look for someone who could continue his venture. He got many pretenders, but he chose my grandfather, Bruno Lunelli, who was a wine merchant. He was having the best, let's say, wine store in Trento. And the reason why he chose him was that my grandfather was very linked to Trentino. So Giulio Ferrari wanted the winery to remain strictly bound to the territory. And this is actually what happened. And my grandfather in 1952 also had 5 children already. So he also saw that continuity from one generation to the other that he missed so much. So Giulio Ferrari sold the company to my grandfather in 1952, but he actually continued to work within the winery until his death in 1965, so for a long time. My grandfather first, and then the generation of my father and my uncles, the challenge to increase quantity and number of bottles without ever compromising quality. And that has been really the great challenge that we undertook. And I think I can tell as of today that they also won. And it's in my father's generation, Mauro, who was the winemaker from the 70s on, from the end of the 60s to be precise, that some very new and key labels for us today were created. So one of them is Giulio Ferrari Riserva del Fondatore, which is named after Giulio Ferrari, but created by my father in 72. One is Ferrari Perlé, which is another very important and iconic, well-known label all over the world. But also the wine we're talking about today, which is Ferrari Perlé, was created by Mauro, by my father, from the vintage 1969. And it's a story that personally I like very much, because what he actually did in years when rosé sparkling wine were definitely not common in Italy was to create these first bottles and present them to his guest when he got married with my mother in 1972. So the first, let's say, market test was during the wedding party. It was a great success. Since then, every vintage has been produced and very much appreciated. But most of all, I want to mention that after more than 50 years, they're still happily married. So I think it also brings good luck.
Yes, it must be the rosé. That's perfect. That's beautiful. Well, tell us about this, the rosé. Tell us about the varietal makeup of it, and kind of as we're tasting it, how it kind of represents the terroir.
First of all, this rosé is a Trento DOC, like all of our labels. It's a wide range of labels we have. It's 14, but they're all Trento DOC. So a very consistent message on the fact that all of our wines are produced just with traditional method and just with grapes sourced in the best areas of Trentino, which are identified by the disciplinary. The disciplinary allows 4 grapes. So again, we have Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc. We also have Pinot Meunier, which is allowed, but to be honest, almost not used in Trentino. And we as Ferrari just use Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Most of our wines, which are not rosé, are Blanc de Blanc, so 100% Chardonnay, while in this case, we have clearly a blend of Pinot Noir, around 60%, and Chardonnay. It's important to note that we always try to keep a quite important part of Chardonnay also in our rosé, because we think that gives the style of the house that we try to achieve in all of our Chardonnay. So we have the nice berries, red berries notes that come from Pinot Noir, but the Chardonnay gives the verticality, the touch of minerality and elegance, which I think are typical of Trento DOC in general, and in particular in all of our Ferrari Trento DOC.
Yeah, it's a beautiful nose.
Well, I think it's very creamy. There is a very nice balance between the fruity note, the yeasty note, but most of all, the harmony we try to have is between the minerality and the creamy and the pleasure we want to get in the mouth. So it's really mainly about elegance and, as I said, elegance. I think a key feature of Trento DOC in general, coming from the mountain, coming from the cool climate we have, is about longevity. So this is not a particularly aged wine. We're around 24 months on the lees, but I think it's really unique how Trento DOC can age well, thanks, as I said, to the acidity that we have in the grapes that are grown never on the bottom of the valleys in Trentino, but always on the slope of the mountains.
Yeah, it is a beautiful balance between that brightness and then that just kind of that rich texture. It's just perfectly aligned and beautiful. So this is absolutely wonderful. This is delicious. So my final question to kind of bring everybody back together, but Camilla, I'll start with you, is I think there's a missed opportunity to have more meals with sparkling wine. And so I would love to hear from you just some thoughts of kind of what are some of your favorite pairings, I guess, if you will, of the foods that you like to enjoy with your wine. Camilla?
Well, I'm very glad you mentioned this because I think all of us are very happy when our sparkling wines are used to celebrate anniversary and partying and so on. That's great. I really love that. But I think that in particular, well-done traditional method sparkling wine is most of all a food-friendly wine. And it's not me saying that clearly in a conflict of interest, but even according to most of sommeliers, the versatility of traditional method sparkling wine is incredible because the bubbles clean your mouth and they're, as I said, very flexible in pairing. So I think most of them are really just have some, I think, food they don't match nicely with. It's easier to say what not to match them with than what to match them with. But if I have to pick something I really like, and not only with the rosé, even with Blanc de Blanc, Trento DOC, is pizza. We say pizza and bollicine is a great pairing, and I warmly invite everyone to try it.
Perfect. Sounds perfect. Maurizio, what about you?
Well, I agree with Camilla. Those wines, I believe that they have a wide range of foods that you can associate with. because they're clean and they clean your mouth. So probably we cannot eat with red meat, but for all the rest of the food, I believe that they can work very well. So personally, from oyster to popcorn.
So what? Popcorn?
Yes, from
That's
oyster
my
to
favorite.
popcorn.
That is my favorite. Probably truffle popcorn, but yes.
Yeah.
Sylvia?
Yes, I agree as well. We always promote to the pair with sparkling wine with the prosecco, and then depending on the label and the residual sugar that we have, you can taste. You can pair different food. So to confirm what Maurizio was saying, I think no, actually, what Camilla was saying, pizza rustico, it's very easy to pair with pizza, apart from other different food. But we have also, for example, Grave di Stecca, which is a single vineyard that we produce, which we have tasted several times with oysters, and that's also a great match. We have, for example, the Primo Franco, which is a dry, so it means more sugar, higher sugar level. That's great with a very typical dish in Veneto, not just in Veneto, but Veneto is also a good producer of rice. So with risotto is very good, like shrimps and zucchini, or like a vegetable risotto or peas risotto. So that's a very good match, because there is a little bit of sweetness in the wine and a little bit of sweetness in the dish. So it's I think it's a great opportunity to match food and wine.
Yeah, I think that I always encourage more people to say, you don't have to just have sparkling wine for the celebrations, which are also lovely, like you said, but they are wonderful and matching with food. So, well, Camilla and Maurizio and Sylvia, it was a pleasure tasting wines and talking with you and sharing your stories. I really appreciate your time. And
thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you, Gwendolyn.
Grazie.
Thank you, grazie.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.